Chapter.
This verse is about the Daf Yomi, this chapter.
Okay. So we're together. What does it say in Daf Yomi about this chapter, Reb Shmuel? Specifically.
You'll see.
Okay. Okay. So here, chapter 15, the 15th chapter of the book of Tehilim is very different, similar to the 24th chapter. It asks a very important question. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai mi yagur bo alecha mi yishkon bahar kodshecha. The Psalm of David, right? Or Psalm to David. Who will live in your tent? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? We know this from chapter 24. We say it in Kabbalat Shabbat. It's a more commonly known one, but it's the same question. Who can be there, the divine? Who will be in the heavens? Who will be in the closest circle? Who can serve in the temple? Etc., etc. And what is the answer? Holech tamim ufoel tzedek v'dover emet bilvavos. The first verse says, who is that person? One who walks upright, one who acts righteously, and speaks truth in his heart. Now, interesting, the last phrase, the speaking truth in his heart, the third quality here is something that we've had over the last number of chapters. There's been a lot of discussion over the last number of chapters in the Tehilim about people who say one thing, but are duplicitous or are liars, or the flattering lip. And so here, as opposed to all of that, which represents the evil and the wickedness that was pervasive and described in 6 or 7 of the previous chapters, this chapter is saying the person who is able to go up to the tent of God, who is that person? It's the person, again, who's upright, who's righteous, and speaks truth in his heart. And in that way, in a certain sense, right, we can think of this chapter in regards to many things that were said by the prophet, such as Yeshaya in the opening chapter when he says, Lama li rov zivchechem, that God says, whoa, I don't need your sacrifices. What I want is kindness. What I want is goodness. Don't come and give me a sacrifice when you are a bad and a wicked person to others, when you take advantage of the poor and the weak. Right? This is saying who's going to be able to be in God's tent? It's people who act in a righteous fashion. It's not about bringing the greatest of sacrifice. And it continues in the same way. Verse 3, Pasuk Gimel, Lo ragala lishono lo asa l're'ehu ra'a v'cherpa lo nasa al krovo. The person who's not spread gossip with his tongue, nor done evil to his fellow, and has not brought shame upon his friend. Again, very much ben adam lechavero. Again, an emphasis on speaking, spreading gossip, the ragel. With the word, we have 2 words for gossip that are similar. We have the word ragel, which is like the word miraglim, the spies, people who are speaking something, they go on their feet. We also have rachil, lo telech rachil ba'amecha is another word related to it. They may have been at some point one word that somehow became 2. But it's the idea, the person, the talebearer who's going around. It's not that person. Nivzeh, we're in verse Dalet, in Pasuk Dalet, verse 4. Nivzeh be'einav nim'at v'et yirei Adonai yichabed. And this person who can enter God's tent knows the difference between good and evil. In his eyes, the vile person is despised, but he honors those who fear the Lord. So much confusion. What's good? What's evil? What's right? What's wrong? Everything is relative. This chapter says the person who's going to be in the tent of God is somebody who can see the difference between good and evil, who understands what is hated, and the people who respect and who love God and fear God, that he respects them. Continuing that verse, Nishba lahara below Yamir. He swears to his detriment and does not change. There are those who understand this as being somebody who's a little bit of an ascetic, swears to his detriment. Is one way of understanding it. And when that person takes that oath, they don't then go back on that oath. I said I'm going to do something, and keeps those commitments. Verse 5, Kaspo lo natan bin neshech v'shochad al naki lo lakach Ose'ela lo yimot le'ola. He's not given his money. It doesn't lend out with interest, and he does not take bribes against the innocent. The person who does these things, the person who can decipher between good and evil and respects those who are good, the person who maybe isn't too spoiled, if you want to understand it as, and is a little bit of an ascetic, the person who does not change and keeps to their commitments, the person who does not lend out money for interest and doesn't take bribes and who walks righteously and their words are correct and doesn't speak evil of others and doesn't shame his embarrass his friends, that person will never fall. Lo yimot la'olam. That person will stand upright. That person will be able to will certainly succeed. I think that is this the I don't know where we are in Daf Yomi, so maybe I'll get it right.
Talking about interest.
Is it the Gemara in Makot? Is that where we are? About
no, we're talking about interest. Ezu Neshach and Ribbis.
Ribbis, because I think it's based upon, is it this chapter or the other chapter where it talks about that Moshe made 613 commandments and this one made it less of them and this one made it less of them. And I think maybe in this verse is one of the places where we go down from 613 commandments to less and less commandments. I think the Gemara in Mako cites this chapter. I could be wrong about that, but certainly the idea, yes, 100%. The idea of Ribbis is in here. I didn't know if specifically this chapter is cited, which, excuse my ignorance, which page are we up to you in Daf Yomi? Well, not we, you.
We're Baba Metzia 70, right in the heart of interest, right in the heart of Ribbis.
Right in the heart of Ribbis. So, okay, so we see that this chapter says if you want to go up to the tent of God, then interest you shall not give. And we'll see in the other similar chapter to this, like I said, chapter 24, the 24th chapter of the book of Tehilim, which also asks these same questions as to who shall write phrase I can't think of it. Miyakum bahar kadsho, the chapter that I can't think of the exact words in front of me right now. Miyaleh bahar Hashem miyakum bimkom kadsho is the same type of chapter. This question as to what are the qualities that are necessary to show that you're a God-fearing individual, to show that you deserve to go up to the temple, not just bringing a sacrifice, but rightfully the right person who sacrificed. Therefore, God will accept, and it will be effective for himself and hopefully for all of Klal Yisrael.